There are just a few very special times of the year that will keep anglers awake at night with excitement, looking forward to their fishing trip the next day. One of those events is happening right now. It's the annual Spring White Bass Run up creeks and rivers. We're going to show you how to catch them on this week's show. Let's Fish TV is on the air right now. That is a fish. Oh man, look at this.
It's time for the only program that brings you real-time fishing reports from the Southwest region every week.
Oh my gosh. Oh, look at that. Woo!
This is Let's Fish.
Every spring about this time, literally millions and millions of white bass, called by nature, push their way up creeks and rivers all over the United States. And when they do, they become the easiest to catch that they will be all year long. They feed heavily, and anglers can catch them from a boat or from the shore. We're going to take you out there and show you how it's done on this week's show in the next half hour. We are located today at Tenkiller Ferry Lake, otherwise known as Lake Tenkiller. It's in eastern Oklahoma between Cookson and Tahlequah, and it is one of the most famous white bass fisheries for a spring spawning run anywhere in the country. So today we're going to take you up the Illinois River, show you how it's done, and hopefully catch some of these nice white bass. We've brought along the beautiful Low Stinger 198 fishing boat to take us up there. It is the perfect boat to do this out of. It's rigged with all the nice stuff. It's got my Mercury Pro XS 115 hanging on the back. We're gonna have a great time in this boat up the river. And while we're doing that, we're taking you around your local region for this week's fishing reports from our team of expert insider reporters from lakes, rivers, and bays, right where you live, both freshwater and saltwater. So we're gonna get the boat down the boat ramp and launch. The next time you see me, I'll be up the river, hopefully tying into one of those hard pulling white bass. Right now, let's get things started back at the studio in your weekend planning.
Hello, the sallooner tables are indicating good game fish activity both days this weekend. Peak daytime hours begin around 3:44 on Saturday and 4:35 on Sunday morning. The best night fishing will begin at 3:23 on Saturday and 4:09 on Sunday. Depending on your location, the sun will rise around 6:55 and set around 7:59. In evenings, we'll have a moon that is only 20% visible. Stick around, we've got fishing reports from across the area on the way. Plus, I'll return with catfishing expert Chad Ferguson to answer this week's Ask the Pro question. Stick with us.
Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Mercury, Go Boldly, Lowrance, America's #1 fish finder, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, Alabama. Get our free fishing guide at orangebeach.com. Motor Guides Tour Pro with GPS anchor. The tour is back. Blazer, high-performance boats for high-performance anglers.
There's what we're fishing for. That's a good size female white bass. That one's probably already spawned. There we go. Fish on. Be a big old female white bass. Let's show these people what this is. Yeah. Ooh, that's a nice one. All right. Hey, we got something going. There we go. Welcome back, everybody. We've made it out today to beautiful Tenkiller Lake, and we're up the Illinois River that feeds the lake. And there's what we're fishing for. That's a good sized female white bass. That one's probably already spawned. We've got fish that have already spawned, some that haven't spawned yet, and some that are right in the middle of it. Let's let that fish go back. We're not keeping them today, but we could. Well, let me get you set up on this place. Tenkiller Lake is about 13,000 surface acres. It's about 35 miles long. It's got a huge population of white bass. And they, by the tens, maybe hundreds of thousands, when the current starts coming down the river and the water temperature gets to be about 52 to 55 degrees, that's when they start their push up the creeks and rivers. So they start at the mouths of the creeks and they hang there for a little while, and then eventually they come all the way up in real shallow water. And they're real aggressive when they're doing this. They're feeding, they're hungry. You know, a largemouth bass or a smallmouth, they're hard to make bite when they're spawning. Not a white bass. They are extremely aggressive fish. So anything that comes near them, they're just going to eat it. And that's why it's so easy to catch them off the bank, out of a boat. You can wade fish for them. There's just lots of ways you can catch them. But wherever you live, if there's a population of white bass in the spring, when you get that temperature in the 50s and you get some current pushing down the creeks, it doesn't even take a big river. It can just be a creek. As long as it's got a defined channel to it, they'll push up it and they'll spawn up in real shallow water. Now I'm going to talk about where they spawn and how they spawn in a little bit.
Hey friends, Captain Kevin Broussard here with your Let's Fish Louisiana Outdoor Report, coming to you from Cajun Paradise in Hackberry, Louisiana. Let's start off Venice, Louisiana. Josh Howard, lots of yellowfin, some blackfin tuna. That seems to be on fire right now. If you ever wanted to go tuna fishing, give them a call, make a trip. Talk to Brent Roy, inshore, Venice, Louisiana. Lots of redfish and some speckled trout action picking up over there. On the freshwater side, I tell you what, Chaffalaya Basin, water's starting to drop, bass fishing's doing real good. Your brim and your white perch also doing excellent. For Old Cajun Phil, Captain Kevin Broussard saying happy fishing. May God bless, and we're gonna see you right here next week.
There we go. There's another one. All right, Tenkiller white bass. It's going to be a little female right there. Well, let's talk just a minute about males and females. Males are going to be the long, skinny ones. Females are the little short, squatty, fat ones. We mentioned that. Look at that. That's a small female, not one of the giant ones. Let's talk about the white bass life cycle. The spawning cycle anyway. They come up in these creeks and rivers. I told you when they come, when the conditions are right. Once they get up here, they kind of mix males and females. The females will push up on a little shelf and they spawn in current. They're not like a largemouth or a smallmouth bass that wallows, or even a crappie that wallows out a nest on the bottom. They just get out there, fan in that current, they spray their eggs out, and then the males come in behind them and spray their milt, and they tumble over sand and rocks, mix, the eggs and the milk mix together, and that's how they get fertilized. And they'll actually spawn in the current. And then once they spawn, they'll work their way back to the reservoir, grow, feed, and start that life cycle all over again. So you kind of catch them mixed, but there are certain ways that you can find the females and key in on those and catch the bigger ones. And I'll talk some more about that here in just a little bit. Got it right where that fish was supposed to be. That fish was on a sandbar. There's a sandbar right here, coming right over the top. There he is. Got it. Right where that fish was supposed to be. Come up, buddy. Be a good one. Yeah, that's a decent one. That fish was on a sandbar. That's a nice white. That's a female and spawned out. Once they spawn, they just start migrating back toward the main lake. Long, skinny, spawned out female. It's big. But you want to pay attention to your depth when you're doing this. There aren't fish everywhere. So you've got to go down through here and kind of figure out and watch your depth finder. I've got my Lowrance Elite FS working here. But you want to watch the bottom contour. And you want to find those little places, especially sandbars. They love sandbars. So what that was is there's a sandbar running out here off the shore, and it comes up to about 2.5 feet and then rolls off that backside and drops to about 7. When that water comes over that sandbar, they'll lay kind of underneath it in where that water is rolling, and they'll feed and just let those eggs ripen. Then when they get ready to spawn, they'll just move up on that shallow flat right there and spawn. But always pay attention because they're in those little key spots. And the cool thing is they're never alone. So once you find them, they're in little groups, and you're likely to sit in one little spot thrown on one little sandbar and catch 7, 8, 10 white bass in one little spot.
Hey, these Oklahoma winds have been relentless the past couple of weeks, and it may be harder to find a spot to get out of the wind to be able to fish than it is to catch them right now because the fish are active. Mike Taylor is doing what he likes to do this time of year a lot. On Home Lake Okmulgee, he's catching some quality bass, 5 to 8 pounders, throwing a weightless either salt flicker or yum dinger right on the edge of the grass line, right on the bank. Now, he said those fish are starting to move in there, and you can catch some really good fish doing that. He likes to do that a lot of different places, but especially there on Okmulgee Lake. Gary Rowe and his son had a good outing to McGee Creek. He said there's a really good jig bite going on for bass at McGee Creek. They caught a lot of fish in the 2 to 4 pound class, throwing a jig with a soft plastic treader, fishing shallow water at McGee Creek. He also caught some nice crappie at McGee. He said those fish are still suspended about 10 feet deep down, but you can catch some nice crappie there. Crappie are starting to pick up at all of our waters across the state, big and small. And what I have found is that most of that early morning bite has kind of been in that 6 to 8 to 10 foot range, even if suspended. But again, those crappie don't want a whole lot of bait moving at this time. They're going to start getting really shallow, really fast. You need to be out there to catch them, but you can't catch them if you don't go.
Hi everybody, this week's Lone Star Lakes is brought to you once again by RCS and their American Renaissance Grills. Made right here in America with superb craftsmanship and fantastic materials. This is truly a grill for a lifetime, and it is America's best value in an outdoor kitchen. Now this week we're going to start at Toledo Bend, where we're going to talk about the crappie. They're up spawning in the shallows in the creeks around the brush and timber. And I've talked about this before. I want to elaborate just a little bit on the gear that you're going to use. I've mentioned the crappie rods. These are 12 to 14 foot specialty rods. You don't need a reel. As a matter of fact, they're very reminiscent of the old cane poles you used to see. And you're going to take this and you're going to thread it through that brush and drop that jig or minnow down on those crappie and just hold it there. Maybe jiggle it just a little. Also, you may want to use about 20 to 25 pound test braided line, because not only can you get hung up doing this and that braid will help you pull that jig or minnow free, but you can also catch a pretty big catfish or even a bass doing this, and you want to be ready to land that fish. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes. Be sure and check us out on Facebook, Lone Star Lakes.
Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Power Pole, Total Boat Control. Visit Mississippi. Good times are close by. Low Boats, 50 years of boating craftsmanship. Balls Out, made in the USA. Heavy duty mounts for your fish finders.
There's a spawning female white bass for you. Big old fat belly. When you're fishing the spawn for these white bass in a river, you want to pay attention to the bank and read the shore. You can see here I've got a kind of a cut bank. It's some red kind of clay dirt, but it falls off on a straight cut. A lot of times that'll indicate a little bit deeper water along there. And sometimes you can get those fish to stack up right in that little, there's one right there, right in that little drop where it's just a little bit deeper. Those females will lay in there waiting for their eggs to ripen. That's a good one. That's a female. Look at the belly. Wide, fat. So you can see right here behind me, you can see how sharp that edge is. So most of the time when you're fishing in a river, you're going to have an outside bend that's a little deeper, and you'll have an inside bend that's shallow. Now when they actually get ready to lay those eggs, they'll move up on that inside bend in that real shallow, more fast moving water, and they'll spray those eggs out in that current. But when they're waiting for those eggs to ripen, they'll lay up against these little deeper holes, these little deeper pockets along the edge, like this one right here.
Hi everyone, Captain Greg Varm here bringing you your Upper Texas Coastal Fishing Report. Hey, just this past week, our water temps here in Galveston has hit low to mid 70s and lots of great things are happening. Hey, I just got in from my morning trip and Tyler landed his very first ever speckled trout, and it's gonna be tough to beat. It was a 28-inch pig. Now the redfish and speckled trout bite, hey, it's been good this week in West Galveston Bay and along the jetties. Soft plastics down south, and of course, live shrimp under a popping cork will get them right now. Galveston fishing is hot right now, and it's only going to get better as water temps continue to rise. Now over in Freeport, hey, the San Luis Pass, Cold Pass, and Bastrop Bay are loaded with reds, specks, and the spring flounder run, hey, it's in full swing. I tell you, now is the time to get here in Galveston or Freeport and get hooked up. Also, want to remind you we're booking up for red snapper season, and if you want to get in on the action, hey, give me a call or check out our websites and let's fish. I'm Captain Greg Varm, and I'll see you next week.
We are having a great day today catching white bass, and I want to show you what I found right here. I want to see if I can get a bite like that. There's another one. I have found a spot that's just loaded with whites right here. Oh, that's a good female. Yeah, look at this. That's a big fat one right there. There's a spawning female white bass for you. Big old fat belly. We're letting them go today, but boy, we could keep a mess of them and fry them up. Catching them on a Strike King rage swimmer. But look what I found. You can see in front of me, scattered all in here, there's a big log jam. And these big trees have fallen over in the water and they're blocking the current. So what I've discovered, you pay attention to your surroundings, you watch what's going on, and you can learn something. These fish will tell you how they can be caught. I'm catching a lot of small males up in the real shallow water in the faster moving current. But what I've discovered right here is this current is blocked by this big log jam. And a lot of times these white bass, the females, and I hung up right there, I'm gonna have to go get that one. They're lazy. They lay there, let their eggs ripen. They don't want to fight that current. So they'll lay in behind all this current break right here, behind these logs, and let those eggs ripen up. And then when they're ready to spawn, they'll move up on that shallow side over behind me here and spawn in about a foot or two of water. In the faster current, they spray those eggs out in the current. But while they're waiting, they lay in these current breaks. So there's an eddy back here, and there's not much current at all behind where all this big log jam is. And a lot of times you find a spot like that, you can catch the bigger females.
Watch our latest episode or catch up on past episodes on our website at letsfishtv.com. Be sure to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter for new fishing videos every day. And download the free Waypoint TV app to get all the latest episodes every week on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart TV. Let's Fish TV is proudly backed by Lose. Feel the difference. Waypoint Customs. Customize your boat your way. Strike King. Tie one on. Glacier Glove. Stay outdoors longer with our gloves, hats, and shades. Fishing Specialties. Makers of the premier mount assembly for live sonar.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's get right to your Ask the Pro question for this week. Ricky wants to know, where are the best places to look for catfish in the spring? For an answer, we asked catfishing expert Chad Ferguson.
With water temperatures rising in the spring, blue catfish will make big moves during this time. You may still find some blue catfish in deeper water and in mid-depths, but you're also going to start to see lots of blue catfish moving into really shallow water, often as shallow as a few feet deep or less. So if you're having a hard time finding fish, it's a good idea to go out and use your sonar to look in the deeper water and mid-depths. Look for good concentrations of bait and fish, and if you don't find them, Then start to move more and more shallow until you find those fish. The shallow, muddy water warms up really fast, so oftentimes fish will move into that shallow water in the midday or in the afternoons and not be in there in the mornings.
Thank you so much, Chad, for that insight. If you want some help from one of the pros too, simply go to letsfishtv.com and follow the Ask the Pro link to submit a question. Now it's time to find out who wins this week's Big Catch of the Week.
We're all finished after a great day here on the Illinois River, and it's time right now for this week's winner in the Big Catch of the Week contest. He's Robert Craig of Choctaw, Oklahoma, showing a 36-pound blue catfish he caught at Lake Hefner in Oklahoma. If you'd like to be our next winner, go to our website at letsfishtv.com. At the bottom of the homepage, follow the instructions to enter your big catch photo and the details. Or you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/letsfishtv. On last Tuesday's post, it's about the Big Catch of the Week. Just comment with your photo there and give us the details about the catch, and you could have you and your big fish shown on television.
Here's today's Right Stuff, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
On the Academy Right Stuff, here's a couple of pieces of gear that we use to catch these white bass on this episode. It starts with the Lew's KVD Spinning Rod and Reel Series. It's the maroon colored series. You can identify it in your store that way. It is the perfect length, perfect action. This particular one is 7.2 and a medium action, and it's perfect for reeling in these hard-fighting white bass. And then we caught every one on the Strike King Rage Swimmer. It's a perfect size little swim bait. It's about 2.5 inches long, kind of a shad color with a kick and tail. Did a great job in this current catching all the white bass. And the last thing I want to mention is my Low Stinger 198. I said at the beginning that it's the perfect boat to do this, and it absolutely is. It'll run up in shallow water. It fishes comfortably. And one thing I really love about it, it's got the best upholstered seats in the business, and up on the front, I love this little lip up here. It's about a 6 or 8 inch lip that I can lay my rods and my tackle boxes down, and as I'm driving across the lake, they won't slide around and they won't bounce out of the boat. Check out the Low Stinger 198 at their website. Do you remember that guy years ago on the radio who used to say, "You know what makes me mad? You know what makes me sick?" Well, I'm about to tell you something that makes me mad, and it should make you mad too. As I drive down the highway and listen to the radio and watch TV, I see these attorneys barking on there about getting you what you deserve, or get you every dollar you're entitled to. Let me tell you something. You don't deserve anything, and you're not entitled to anything just by default. This is America. This is a free enterprise system, a democracy. We get what we work for and what we earn. So don't listen to those liars on TV, radio, and on the billboards. They're just trying to make a buck off of you. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. We had a great time catching these hard-fighting, hard-pulling white bass up on the upper end of Tenkiller Lake in Oklahoma, and I think you would enjoy a trip here as well. We'll see you next week. Until then, I'm Barry Stokes saying, let's fish, everybody. Be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.